acknowledgement this morning is offered by one of your new board members, Charlene Dugan.
Good morning. These acorns remind us that we meet here on Nisenan land, that the history of this land and its peoples continues to shape our community, that we actively support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people and to restore tribal sovereignty through federal recognition, and that our own deepest well-being is bound to the tribe's well-being.
Thank you, Charlene. In case we haven't met yet, I'm the Reverend Kevin Tarsa. I bring you greetings and cooler weather, apparently, from Michigan. Ancestral land of the Anishinaabeg, known as the Three Fires Confederacy of the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi. Actually, the reservation is right almost next to my grandparents' farmland. Can you believe how much has happened in the last 6 weeks? During vacation, the final 2 weeks of my time away, I went on a news fast for several days. And then I really had to work to catch up. So how are you? On a scale of however you want to show it, how are you? People are a little less anxious than I expected, or that I expected not too long ago. Sounds like there's been a little bit of a lift. You will notice that we have our Zoom folks up front this morning. And the Zoomies, you will notice that we have a camera facing the roomies so that you can see each other throughout the service. While I was a church organist during the self-conscious ages of 11 to 20, I had the benefit of playing up in the choir loft in the back most of the time, out of the spotlight and out of people's eyes, not uncommonly all by myself there. And participating on Zoom feels a little bit like that to me, like being up in the choir loft, out of sight. And that may be actually what appeals to some people about joining on Zoom. That said, I invite those of you on Zoom to let your cameras operate this morning, to bring your presence into the room. You might want to brush your hair first or something else, but feel free, as soon as you finish your breakfast, as soon as you're ready, I invite you, as you're comfortable, to put on your cameras. People here in the sanctuary, as we say hello to and warmly welcome the people around us, feel free to choose Zoom folks to say hello to with your wave or whatever gesture, heart-centered gesture is going to work for you. Here's the camera that actually goes to the Zoom folks. I invite you to welcome thoroughly and well the people around you and make sure everyone else gets welcomed. I have to say, it's really nice to see those of you online there in the room. If your cell phone ringer is still on, now is a great time to release yourself and to silence that phone. Our chalice lighting this morning is offered in two voices, by Jax online and by your new president, Taylor Carey, in the room. So we'll pull up Jax here, and the words come from the heart of Kim Mason, titled A Holy Alchemy.
Once upon a time, chemists believed they could transform lead into gold or death into life.
We laugh, but are we not also in the business of alchemy, turning loneliness into connection, pain into comfort, anger into solidarity, faith into action?
The subtle magic of church combines love with justice, creates hope out of fear, transforms individuals into community.
Here we engage in a holy alchemy, finding beauty in the ordinary and life in the present. Come, let us be transformed together.
Together.
We are transformed by our youngest members and they by us. And we bless them on their way to Kids Connection with our love, with the flame of the chalice, and with our voices. Threatening, but I think one day I'm going to lead a church service that's just a whole bunch of greeting and then that song, and we'll just keep going back and forth, and that'll be church. I don't know. Anyway, good morning. And a warm welcome to those of you on Zoom, to those here in the sanctuary in Grass Valley, California, and to those watching at a later date on our Unitarian Universalist Community of the Mountains YouTube channel. It's worth a scroll, or stop scrolling. This is the last Sunday service in July. I know, right? It's almost August. And I am not Lindsay Dunckel. Yeah, I am Beth Karow, stepping in for Lindsay to serve as worship associate as she rides out a COVID infection at home. I know. I thank her and Reverend Kevin for the opportunity to participate in this beautifully crafted service, having done really none of the actual work of preparation. And I'm sure you'll join me in wishing her and all of our friends who might be under the weather a speedy recovery. And speaking of under the weather, phew, I can't remember a time when I thought that any temperature reading in the 90s was a relief. But here we are. Hopefully this break from the relentless days of high heat will aid in the efforts of firefighters across our state to reach containment on a number of devastating fires currently burning. Also burning is the Olympic flame, as the finest athletes in the world gather in Paris to represent their countries in the spectacle of sport, even as war, famine, political turmoil, and environmental and economic injustices are daily reminders of the fragility of existence on this earth that we all call home. So here we are, gathered together, some newly arrived and some long-timers, bringing each of our whole selves to this place and time made holy by our presence, knowing that together we work and play, laugh and cry, learn and grow as we strive to make a better, more equitable, sustainable, and just world for ourselves and for those who come after us. In looking over the planning document that Lindsay and Reverend Kevin used as they crafted this service for this Sunday, I found a song possibility that didn't make it into the final draft of their service, but given some leeway to make my own welcome and opening words, I decided that I would like to include it. It's called "We Will Carry Each Other" by Soren Ostenfeld, who is a singer, songwriter, composer, voice educator, and community music leader. He also serves as the music director at First Parish in Malden, Massachusetts, outside of Boston. His words: I am looking for shelter in a friend. We can build a beginning, but I do not know the end. I'm scared of breaking when I bend. We will carry each other on the way. My courage is your courage. When the journey is only getting longer, my strength is your strength. We will carry each other on the way. There are prayers I don't know how to say, but I still find solace when I close my eyes to pray. What I've lost and what I hope can stay, we will carry each other on the way. I am full and I am running out. I'm a flooding river and I'm living through the drought. I have firm conviction and my heart is filled with doubt. We will carry each other on the way. There are people I have never met. There is something special and I haven't found it yet. There is abundance given freely, taken with no debt. We will carry each other on the way. My courage is your courage. When the journey is only getting longer, my strength is your strength. We will carry each other on the way. Good morning. It is good to be together.
Speaking of, we will carry each other on the way. Each year, we invite the congregation, the members of the congregation, to charge the incoming board and to bless the board as well. So I invite our board members to please come forward. Taylor Carey, president, is already up here. Here comes Pam Kaiser, vice president. Charlene Dugan, new member at large. Chuck Champlin, completing a member at large term. And Gail Schultz, your intrepid treasurer. Missing today is Jeff Gold, who is home for health reasons this morning. So Jeff, we hope you are feeling more comfortable and healing well. So we'll miss Jeff, but we will charge Jeff too while we're here. So I invite you, members of the congregation, to rise in body or in spirit and to name this charge together. We charge you, our circle of chosen leaders, to guide this community with love, vision, and courage, calling forth the best in us through the work that you do. Oh, I can hear the Zoom voices too. Tell us not what we want to hear, but what you know to be most honest and true. Help us to reach in and to reach out. We call you to nurture a meaningful shared ministry among us and with our ministers. We entrust you with the care and safety of our tangible and intangible resources, the gifts of our hands and our treasure, as well as the generosity of our hearts. So, do you, each of you board members, accept this charge? I do. Very good. So we're going to offer a blessing, but I want to add the physicality of a blessing. So we're going to do a laying on of hands in this way. Somebody to reach out to the Zoom folks to reach out your hands, And we're going to have somebody on this side touch a shoulder there. And then if you'd make sure you're touching the shoulder of someone who's touching the shoulder of someone who's touching the shoulder of someone who's touching the shoulder of someone. So we're going to work together. We're going to work together. Are we all connected? So that you don't have to look at the screen, I'm going to feed these lines to you. I invite you to repeat after me this blessing to these courageous board members. We bless you. I'm going to invite you to echo. So we don't need the words on the screen, Cypress, for a moment. Yeah, that'll make it easier. We bless you. We bless you. And all that you do on our behalf. And all that you do on our behalf. We bless you. We bless you. With our love. With our love. With our goodwill. With our goodwill. And with our willingness. And with our willingness. To bring our skill. To bring our skill. Our knowledge. Our knowledge. Our artistry. Our artistry. And our energy. And our energy. To the journey we share. To the journey we share. And the mission we have named. And the mission we have named. So while we're connected, very good. So I invite you to add a silent blessing of your own hopes, your own prayers, your own silent gratitude for these people willing to be in a role that serves you and this community and its mission in the world. And together, let us name our commitment to the mission this congregation has set for itself. Now we will have words. Together, with courageous love and a sense of wonder, we cultivate our spiritual, emotional, and intellectual strength to create a world more compassionate, sustainable, and just. And what's left is to first sing a thank you. Oh, here comes Toby. Thank you. One more time. And now your wild hoopla of gratitude. I hope you got a good look at your people. These are good people. Skillful, generous people. Thank you all. These next words will likely sound familiar to you. We, the people, it wasn't actually to repeat, but that's cool. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. How many people had to memorize that at some point? Yeah. I invite you to hear these words again from the preamble to the U.S. Constitution as if they are speaking of this congregation, of this gathered community.
We, the people of the Unitarian Universalist Community of the Mountains, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Unitarian Universalist community of the mountains.
It's in the ballpark, isn't it? With a tweak to understand defense as protecting the people among us who need protection, and with an explicit widening of the circle of the blessings of liberty to include everybody. The congregation's charging and the blessing of the board inspired this morning's focus on we the people, rooted in our Unitarian Universalist tradition's insistence that members of a community like this one create and steward and define and hold the final authority for the community. Yes, you, the people. These are ideas that developed in our tradition on this continent exactly in tandem with the developing ideas of the colonial revolutionaries, who were said to draw from the wisdom and practices of the Haudenosaunee League of Peace, the 5 and then 6 nations living along and around the lower Great Lakes, said to be the oldest living participatory democracy on earth. It was a radical notion at the time among Europeans who had been steeped in impenetrable layers of class and hierarchy. A vision that would need over time to be made more and more perfect, they recognized. It's no accident that several of this country's founders leaned heavily toward Unitarian and Universalist theologies. This morning, we celebrate that we are all in this together, and that the values we cultivate and practice together here are values that we hope will support our families too, our neighborhoods, our towns, our nation, our world, through all the circles of relationships. What we practice here is what we hope will be happening beyond here. So I invite us to sing the words from the preamble to a different constitution. This time, the preamble to the constitution of a 19th century coal miners' union rulebook. Words set by Pete Seeger to an Irish tune. Singer-songwriter John McCutcheon said that this song is able to say everything you need in 4 lines. The most basic things, he said, about communities and unions. He tried to write verses for it, he said, and they were just pointless. So I invite us, we the people, to rise in body or in spirit, and to sing these words together. We'll sing the brief song 3 times, so you'll have a chance to hear it if you wish, if it's new to you. It's number, we didn't pass out the hymn books. It's number 157 in the hymn books, if there's someone who really wants to see the music, if that will be helpful to you. Step by step, the longest march can be won. Many stones can form an arch, but singly, none. And by union, what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, but singly, none. Singly, none. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, here or at home, and to sing.
Stones can form an arch, singly none.
my recent time away, staying at the family homestead in Michigan, most days I took a walk along my brother's farm fields and up over a very high, tall hill with views of a couple different lakes, including Lake Michigan, along various woods, along cherry orchards. And as is my wont, I watched for the evolving series of roadside grasses and flowers and shrubs, old friends to me. I had a vision of inviting nieces and nephews to walk with me to learn the names of the many plants, and so I took reference photos. In any given spot, I could count 15 to 30 different plants, not counting trees, even discovering a few plants I had never seen before. I was often struck by the variety and the ways each plant grew and flowered in its own time, each finding its own space and height and needed sunlight or shade. Beautiful, relaxed looking, natural communities. For learning purposes, I was taking these reference photos of individual plants rather than the landscape, so I don't have a great one, but here's one roadside scene. Not as diverse as most, but still there is a community. Milkweed, Queen Anne's lace, bladder campion, brome and orchard grasses, blackcap raspberries, bouncing bet, small trees, all at the sloping edge of a tall woods. The roadside scenes like this contrasted in my mind with the formal gardens I had seen around European palaces. Next slide, Cypress, please. Box elder bushes sculpted rigidly to within an inch of their lives. An attempt to control nature. Such formal sculpted gardens always feel uncomfortable to me, too rigid for me. I thought about how in my home garden, the volunteer plants that come up all on their own in places I don't expect and would never have planted them create some of the most beautiful scenes in my garden. They often become my favorite sections of the garden. Thanks to birds and squirrels, all kinds of new plants appear as if out of nowhere. Several times, plants I had been thinking about purchasing just about that time. In the 1600s and 1700s in Europe, as ideas of independence and democracy were gradually forming on this continent, at least for white male European landowners, formal gardens were all the rage, with an ideal of bringing nature under control for its own good, mind you. Father knowing best. But a more relaxed idea of landscaping began to crop up with the Romantics late in the 1700s. The idea that a garden should look and feel natural, its soft edges blending seamlessly into the wider and wilder surroundings. The new understanding, something humans had all known earlier at some point for many thousands of years, and that indigenous people around the world had never forgotten, was that plants look best where they grow best, and that they should be allowed to develop their own natural forms. As Gail Schultz will know, this is the churchyard around the Unitarian Church in Charleston, South Carolina, the cemetery. It is beautiful, with a lush, loose, overgrown feel. Carefully designed, actually, back in the Romantic era. It's like walking through room after intimate room held by these gentle walls of shrubs and trees and moss and flowers. Spectacular, soft, unfolding. A church member there told me that once, as a horse-drawn carriage of tourists was being driven past the church, the driver tour guide said, "It's too bad they don't keep this churchyard up. It could be really beautiful." The church member turned to me and said, "Oh, they have no idea how much work and how many hours it takes to keep this churchyard looking natural like this." As I think about this congregation and the nation, about the ideal of community in general, and about the members and citizens that make them up, I keep envisioning something between the professionally landscaped churchyard and the volunteer graced garden where I live, and the wild roadsides of my summer walks, where a surprisingly wide range of plants grow together of their own accord in all their variety, demonstrating that plants do indeed look best where they grow best, and where each is allowed to develop its own natural form. But the ideal I envision is one in which attention, and a very deep but very open intention are also invested, where what grows is not left entirely to chance or to the vagaries of the weather, but is rather tended, nurtured, cultivated enough and allowed to be surprising, creative, generative, supported and not tightly controlled, created and continually defined by the plants that choose to grow there. Often in my yard and garden, I say, may the best plants win. Meaning the ones that grow most naturally there, right? As I was explaining my take on this to Lindsay, I'm hoping you're feeling better, Lindsay. Lindsay offered that the volunteers in my garden grow where they do, not totally on their own, but because I and my predecessors have created and nurtured conditions which enabled them to grow there. Even the roadside plants I so enjoy are not due entirely to the wilds. They grow as they do because a few times a year, the County Road Commission drives through and mows several feet of the roadside, which is exactly what some plants need to find their footing and enough sunlight. It's not about leaving things entirely to chance or ignoring them, but neither is it about exerting control. It's about creating the conditions for a range of people to flourish and thrive, each in their own way and shape, and in the shared ways that make up a community. As we were thinking about charging and blessing the board today, and about the way that Unitarian Universalist congregations are ultimately created by their members, Lindsay and I both thought of the title, We the People, at the same moment. I heard in it, as we sat with it, we as a verb. I was thinking that what's needed right now, increasingly, for both a community like this congregation and for this nation, is to we the people. As a verb, to we the people, to move from the highest priority of I, me, mine, and getting what I want, to we, us, ours, and the larger shared good. President Biden's willingness to step down from running again for office for the sake of the nation and democracy was a powerful and moving example of this for me, and such an extraordinary contrast to Trump's efforts to seek and hold on to power at all costs. Talk about a difference in values. But for me, the ideal is not to abandon the value and importance of I and each person's individual inherent worth. It's about holding that sense of I in an alive relationship with the we, in an evolving relationship with the we that can only happen through the participation and the engagement and the insight and the action of all the I's. The ideal we that happens then helps every I flourish in its particular way. This is the progressive vision of citizenship and patriotism and the common good. This is the progressive vision of freedom, George Lakoff has pointed out. The commitment to pool our common wealth for the common good, not instead of offering individual freedom, and not to the detriment of individual agency and freedom, but exactly the opposite. To pool our common wealth for the common good so that the individuals can have the resources and support they need to be free to pursue their individual goals. All woven together, a both and, once again. I's actively creating, investing in the we that allows each I to be most fully itself. As Lindsay put it so beautifully, we together make up this place called UUCM. We imagine it, we create it each and every day, we hold it to pass on to those who come after us. It's a whole greater than the sum of its parts. I'm going to come back to this. But first, let's embody that we-ness in the shared ritual of honoring the joys and the sorrows, the prayers and the hopes and worries, whatever is most mattering in our hearts. This ritual of placing a stone in a bowl of water or typing into the chat on Zoom, the I risking investing in the we and being supported by the we. A few times last year, I invited people to come up to the bowl, several people at a time, instead of single file, one by one. It has become on its own a new norm, an embodiment, as I see it, of the truth that we are all in this together. Typically, I or a worship associate stands as witness to each person and what they carry. This morning, I invite 2 or 3 of you to volunteer, to serve as witnesses, to hold compassionate, open-hearted space on this far side of the bowl, perhaps after you place your stone. On Zoom, I invite you to be witnesses to each other as well, as you type what you carry or type in O as the equivalent of a stone. I invite us into the honoring of our joys and sorrows, and not just our own, for everyone else's at the same time. I invite us to hold each other very carefully and very tenderly in this time.
To Light the Darkness and Begin Again by D. Scott Cooper. There is a glow far off in the distance, a light to which no path leads. We know that each time we help another or join with them to heal the world, each time we stand up for justice and what is right, each time we work and hope and love against all odds, a spark is created that adds to the intensity of that light. We join with others who see and turn toward the glow. As we travel toward that beacon, the underbrush of indifference is flattened and a path is created. More are led to join us, and obstacles are kicked away, and a road is formed. Many approach the light, strengthened by our works, and we join them to each light a candle. Although many candles are lighted, the blaze never diminishes. We travel out into the world again to light the darkness and begin again. The cycle continues. Our work intensifying the glow and our joining with others to travel to the blade and light our candles again. We continue knowing that one day we or our grandchildren or perhaps their grandchildren will no longer travel that widened and trodden path to light a candle because dawn has arrived. Justice is commonplace, and poverty is vanquished, and the beloved community stands illuminated in the fullness of daylight.
I want you to stretch for a moment. Ways that work for you. Ways that work for your body. Oh, I can feel the difference in the room. Thank you, Beth, for doing that. A year ago, I introduced John Alexander's ideas about moving from the reigning consumer story to the citizen story. Away from the idea that we're shopping for what we want among things produced by others, even in a church setting. To the idea that we co-create. We co-create community. We co-create nation. The word citizen means at root, together people. And citizenship requires, John says, a blend of engagement, contribution, and action. So it's a shift from independence to interdependence, among other things, from passive to active. In religious communities across the nation, as well as in many other kinds of volunteer organizations, people are less and less willing to take on leadership roles, at least of any length. People are willing to help out, sure, but don't want to lead or to be in charge. Both an aging population and differences in generational expectations are contributing to this, and it's creating a volunteer gap, at least for the way we have been used to doing things. Can I support you in any way, Cypress?
We don't need sound.
No sound for Zoom?
No sound for Zoom. Or no podium mic.
It's for Zoom. So it sounds like it's going fine in your room, just not to Zoom. So I think the remedy will be in the back, I'm pretty sure. Thanks, Cypress.
Sorry.
The amazing Cypress. I so appreciate Cypress' willingness to just jump in and figure out what's going on and sort it out. Yeah, much appreciated. Any resources there? Is it the pulpit mic in particular, do you think? Okay, sounds like there's sound. We're looking to the Zoom folks to let us know there's sound. Yeah. Pam spoke to this transition, right? This volunteer gap, this change in culture. Again, not just here, not just in churches, but all kinds of volunteer organizations. She spoke of it in her president's report in June, as a couple board positions remain unfilled this year. And she suggested that this can be a time to reimagine what the board is and how it serves and what serving on the board means. Or even more broadly, to reimagine what congregational leadership and activity looks like. Now, Taylor, hearing of the gap and having it weigh on his heart, came forward to express his willingness to serve as president this year. In doing this, the congregation is extending a little bit longer its use of the ways we have known, right? The familiar. Something between the formal sculpted garden model, right? Here's a slide, Cypress. Something very specific and organized and very carefully defined. Something between that, in other words, the way we've always done things, sort of. Something between that and the carefully designed but relaxed looking churchyard, right? Which looks natural, but actually was carefully designed and takes a lot of upkeep. So that's kind of where we are. As I think about my own leadership, what this congregation needs from its minister and leaders now and in the future. And as I think about what I have to offer, all these notions of citizenship and I-ness and we-ness are stirring. I find myself moving somewhere between that relaxed-looking churchyard that leadership carefully designs and then invites everyone else to keep up, which is sort of a benevolent authoritarian model. Something between that and the completely wild meadow left to fend for itself. There's a slide for that too, Cypress. So something between carefully designed, looks natural, but takes upkeep, and something totally left on its own. Now I'm comfortable and most familiar, I have realized, with having a lot of quiet control or being entirely and very happily hands-off. Those are two really good, easy options for me: quiet control or total hands-off. What's needed for where you are as a congregation and where we are as a nation, I suggest, and where I'm at in my own growth, is to learn something between those two. Something in the neighborhood of the roadside spread of wildflowers and grasses, which is tended just enough to create growthful conditions, but not highly controlled. Or something like the backyard garden, which creates the conditions for growth and then welcomes the unplanned volunteers that arise in unexpected and yet exactly the right places. This is a shift already underway here among us, many of you will know, requiring letting go of certain expectations of how things are done or even which things need to be done, requiring abundant creativity, and most successful when the people, all of the people, take on that blend of engagement, contribution, and action, but not to the point of too much. That blend of engagement, contribution, and action, finding the places to take root and grow and blossom for this season in your life. And so to always be co-creating this community by virtue of who you are and what you bring and your presence and your action. One of the key emergent strategies that Adrienne Maree Brown names is to trust the people. Trust the people, she writes, to do everything better than you could have imagined. What's needed now, I sense, is a rather large and creative and daring leap into the next level of we're all in this together. And trusting the people and figuring out anew what leadership means in that context. Not absent of leadership, but what does trusting the people ask of leaders? This place where we would not be limited to do what we've always done, the way we've always done it, not trying to exert huge control, nor leaving things entirely to chance and the weather, where there's a lot of room for ideas and actions to arise and to recede organically for seasons of different lengths, where everyone claims responsibility and agency and shared ownership at a level that is right and true and sustainable for them, for you, and is also respectful of the we, of the us. As I said, this movement is already underway in this community. As Elizabeth Rose invites you to look behind the hospitality curtain and maybe take part there, or to share ways you are seeking or finding support for navigating anxiety around the election. As Paul Elias dreams up and organizes beat cafes, and Sophia leads candlelight joys and sorrows circles. As Laura helps us look anew at how we welcome and attend to guests, as Pam invites doing the board differently, as you bring your ideas forward, and as so many of you invest your energies and your creativity and your heart in community. So here's to affirm and bless and encourage more of that. To encourage holding however we've been doing things even more lightly, even more loosely. And to charge you members and maybe soon to be members to bring who you are most authentically, who you are most truly, to bring yourself actively to the mutual shaping of what this community is and will best be. Not waiting to decide whether what's here is something you like or don't like a consumer, a shopper, but allowing your presence and your heart and your values to interact with the presence and heart and values of everyone. And so to create something not more complex, but more rich, pooling our wealth for the sake of each and all. There is a hand rhyme we played when I was young. This is the church. This is the steeple. Open the doors and see all the people. But actually, it's the other way around, isn't it? This is the church. Or maybe this is the church. Or this is the church. I invite us to risk and be creative, finding that out together. So may we be.
The receiving of an offering, which some UU congregation call sharing in stewardship, is a time to lift up our collective responsibility toward the common good, rather than just a necessary intermission during our worship service. It is a meaningful opportunity to experience giving as an act of worship, representing and enhancing our relationship with one another and our beloved community. In addition to helping fund the many programs and services offered by UUCM, 50% of the generous monetary offerings this month will support Bright Futures for Youth, a local, community-focused nonprofit organization committed to addressing the ever-changing needs of youth from sixth graders to those in their mid-20s. Created by the merger of the Friendship Club and NEO, its focus areas are health and wellness, healthy relationships, goal setting, self-awareness, self-sufficiency, and community connectedness. Our greeters will now accept with love and gratitude your generous gifts, freely given in the spirit of fellowship.
We all drink the same water, we all breathe the same air. We are all sons and daughters on this planet we share. So then, why can't we all live in peace? Tell me, why can't we all live in peace? Though we come in many colors, speak in many tongues, we are more the same than different, black or white, old or young. The same sun shines above, the same ocean ebbs and flows, and the language of love is the one the whole world knows. So then, why can't we all live in peace? Tell me, why can't we all live in peace? We all want our children to grow up healthy and strong, So we teach them the difference between what's right and wrong. The only way we can ever make a world that's safe and free is to teach them not to hate, but to live in harmony. Only then we can all live in peace. Maybe then we can all live in peace. So then why can't we all live in peace? Tell me, why can't we all live in peace? Tell me, why can't we all live in peace? Tell me, why can't we all live in peace?
Well, thank you for that. That was beautiful. And thank you for this. There is no church without its people. We are this church. We are all it means inside these walls and all it stands for out in the world. And all it stands out for in the world. Important distinction. We dedicate these gifts to the church we embody with our hands and our hearts. Thank you for your generosity.
Thank you, Beth, for stepping in as worship associate at the very last minute so beautifully. Thank you. In case you didn't catch that, that was a song written by Catherine that Taylor and Catherine just sang, and it's lovely to hear you on a stringed instrument to go with. Thank you to Charlene for reading, for Jax as well, and Taylor, for Claire, who's more familiar in this role than when I left. Thank you very much. To Eileen for being our chat host. For those of you online who are willing to show yourselves, I hope you do some more here at the very end. Shanti Emerson for the setting, Gwen and Karow for greeting, always so beautifully. The folks who were busy getting ready with refreshments, which included Michael and Leslie and Shannon and Laura this morning, and Shannon and Cheryl, who are with our youngest ones for Kids Connection. And a special thank you to you board members for your willingness at a time when fewer and fewer people are willing to do that. No small thing. So my hope is that it is rewarding and sustainable as well as sustaining this year. I invite us to note that singing meditation is this Thursday. We're back for, if you're looking for respite, I'm thinking about how to offer both action and respite in these coming months between now and the election. Here's a respite. Come sing on Thursdays at 7. This Thursday at 7. Next one, Cypress, please. So Sydney Morrison, who's written a fabulous book based on the life of Frederick Douglass, will be here speaking next Sunday, and also Friday here at the Royce Library in Grass Valley. Please share that word and invite people to either. It's really getting enormous press. There are already movie deals in the works, and here's a great chance to hear the author read and to meet the author and learn a little bit from him next week. UU 101 will be next week after our Q&A with Sydney Morrison. This is for both new folks and folks who've been around a while to find out a little bit more. Humanist Discussion Group meets the following Wednesday, if that appeals to you. It's a great group to join in on. You can move through these relatively quickly, Cypress. Joys and Sorrows Candlelight Service next Thursday, not this Thursday, but the following Thursday on August 8th. As always, check out the website, the e-chalice, the newsletter for more. I invite us to sing together the song Life Calls Us On. Here's the all-purpose song, right? This is always valid. This is always, always valid. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and to sing with all of this we-ness in mind. reminder from Kim Mason. We are in the business of alchemy. We, the people, are in the business of alchemy. At our best, turning loneliness into connection, pain into comfort, anger into solidarity, faith into action. The subtle magic of church combines love with justice, creates hope out of fear, transforms individuals into community, and vice versa. Here we engage in holy alchemy, finding beauty in the ordinary and life in the present. May we indeed be transformed and so become agents of transformation everywhere we go. So we remember this, we offer these good words to each other every Sunday as we part. Together, let us carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Please accost and thank your board members. Join us for refreshments, and we'll see you next week for lessons from Frederick Douglass.